What if I told you the US is telling its diplomats to aggressively remind Africa of American generosity while cutting aid? This is Kenya News Update today. Coming up, you'll discover a leaked email that's being called racist and how the Trump administration's new strategy is shifting from aid to trade. Meet Nick Checker, the new head of the US State Department's Bureau of African Affairs, a former CIA conflict analyst. Earlier this month, he sent an email to his staff, and it was leaked. The email tells diplomats to be unabashed and aggressive, to remind African governments about the generosity of the American people. It says it's not gauche to remind these countries of U.S. help containing HIV/AIDS or alleviating famine. But here's the twist. This push comes as the Trump administration is cutting aid and closing USAID programs. The email says this messaging is essential to counter a false narrative that the U.S. isn't the largest donor, and to leverage that assistance to advance U.S. interests. But the strategy goes deeper. The Trump administration released a new national security strategy in November. It outlines a shift, a move from an aid-focused relationship with Africa to a trade and investment-focused one. It says the U.S. should favor partners who open their markets to U.S. goods and services. Checker's email elaborates. It says in Africa, the stakes are often limited, indirect, and largely negative. It calls Africa a peripheral theater for U.S. interests, not a core one. It says framing Africa as strategic has historically served bureaucratic and moral imperatives, not hard interests. But here's what nobody's talking about. The reaction from those who know Africa best. A former senior State Department official with 2 decades of experience called the email offensive and downright racist. They said its suggestions are against U.S. national security interests. Another critic, Christopher Harrison, a former senior official, said Checker is wildly out of touch with reality. He's talking about communities where the U.S. withdrew life-saving drugs, yet he's concerned about messaging that America is generous. A diplomat from West Africa, who has mediated conflicts in Chad and the DRC, acknowledged U.S. aid has alleviated suffering. But the implication is clear. The message is changing. And then something shocking happened. The email identifies what the U.S. sees as opportunities: negotiating settlements to conflicts like DRC, Rwanda, and Sudan, and investing in critical minerals and the energy sector. It's a purely transactional view. This is the part that will blow your mind. For decades, U.S. policy in Africa, while imperfect, carried a thread of partnership. This new approach, critics say, strips that away. It reduces a continent of 54 nations to a risk to be managed and resources to be extracted. The implications are huge. This isn't just about diplomacy. It's about global health, food security, and regional stability. Kenya and all of Africa are watching. The controversy is clear. Some say it's a realistic, hard-nosed strategy for a new era. Others say it's a racist dismissal that will damage U.S. influence for a generation. But the unanswered question remains. If the U.S. steps back from its role as a leading donor, who will fill the void? China? Russia? Or will millions be left without the medicines and food they depend on? Do you think this new U.S. strategy is a smart pivot or a dangerous mistake for Africa? Drop your take in the comments. Subscribe to Kenya News Update today for more breaking international news.